Hello, everyone. My talk is called Becoming Yourself, but after I thought about it, I probably should have called it Bad Decisions Made Me Smart. I made a lot of bad decisions in my life, but they all led me to who I am now, and that's an amazing thing because I'm learning from them now. So, I was born in Peterborough, Ontario. I was the oldest daughter. I had a brother follow quite quickly after. I'm an Irish twin, so 11 months later, I had my brother. And then it was competition right from there. So I'm the girl, I'm the oldest, but he was the golden god in the family because he was the boy. So I struggled with this through my life, and I had another brother, and I got to raise him because I was like 8 then. My mother was an alcoholic, so I never really felt like I fit in my family. I felt like I was the cause of all the problems in it. So from a very young age, I got blamed for things, and I felt at fault. So it's taken me all of these years, I'm almost 50, to realize that none of this was ever my fault. So I went off to high school thinking I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, but I had this desire inside to serve, and I wanted to help people, and in my childlike mind I thought I want to be a doctor. So I thought doctors help people, they heal them, like I was only young, and didn't realize you heal yourself. I had this bright idea, but in my family circumstances I was not encouraged, so my marks were not very good. They were like mid-70s, and I got to about grade 11, and I was like, well, I'm never going into college or university with these marks. And at that point, I was living on my own, so I got the bright idea to join the Navy. So I walked into the recruiting office at 18 years old, walked up those stairs, and the guy there told me, you can join the Navy and you can swim in the ocean with the sharks, and there'll be someone with a weapon that will shoot the shark if it comes near you. And I'm like, swimming in the ocean? And I'm like, I'm in. So I joined the Navy just on the thought that I might be able to get to swim in the ocean. So naive. But I also had this plan that I would join as a non-commissioned officer, and then I would go to night school, and I would get as many courses as I could, and I would show them that I was doing something with my life, and I would hopefully get them to pay for me to go to medical school. And then I would do my 5 years after or whatever in payment for medical school. Yeah, it didn't turn out that way. So I went to basic training. I turned 19 in basic training. That was crazy. I was allowed to go to a bar with a little thing, and it was only like the green and the gold, that's what it was called. It was, but then I went to my first posting. Well, I was ready to join the Navy, and I had these expectations, but I did not expect that I would be sexually assaulted and then charged for it. So I did all of the reporting and everything, and then the police school used my incident report against me, and because it said I was on the male floor, they decided to bring me up on charges, and I had to stand beside my assaulter and say I was guilty every hour on the hour for 21 days. And it left me with a lot of thinking I did something wrong yet again. And because of it, women had just went into the Navy in 86, 87, something like that. As soon as women got rights, they started opening it up. The men didn't really want us there yet. So my chief said a lot of really horrible things to me. He said that I was nobody, I was nothing, I was going nowhere, many, many things. And I held on to those all of my, until recently. So I'm just in this reframing stage. That's why I talk Becoming Yourself, because up until this point, I didn't know who I was. I got out of the military, I only lasted 23 months, and they sent me home. They released me on advantageously employable at the present time. I was 20 years old, I felt like a failure. I attempted to kill myself. I ended up in a psych ward, and the doctor told me that I was pregnant. It wasn't from the military, it was just in my little, while I was trying to off myself. I guess I did some things that I don't really remember, but I saw it as a great gift because Well, here I have this beautiful little baby growing inside of me, and I'm like, this is a gift. So it was me and Trey, my son, and he kept me alive. And then I got married, and well, that didn't work out, but I got another beautiful son. So, that's awesome. I went on, I ended up marrying 3 narcissists because I was accepting the love I thought I deserved. And I didn't think very highly of myself, so I was accepting very little value in my men. After I left my first husband, I still had that, I'm like, I need to help people. I can't just sit here with my kids and just do this. So I enrolled at nursing school. I went back to school at 29 years old to university to just take a couple courses to see if I could do it. And then they were opening a nursing program at Trent University. So I was so excited. I was like, I want to get in this, because if I can't be a doctor, I could be a nurse, and we all know that nurses do most of the job, right? So I took my 2 little boys. I was single at this time. I walked in and I met the director of the nursing program, and I'm like, I want to be a nurse. I said, I'm in university, and she's like, do you have all? And I'm like, I don't have chemistry. I had to go back and take grade 11 and OAC chemistry at like 28, 29 years old in high school. I went to summer school, so I got those credits in 1 month. But it was really an awkward experience being in a high school environment, and I would even take my kids to school with me. So, my teachers were great though. I'm so thankful because they would give my kid a test too and make him feel like he was part of the class. So I did get into nursing school. I ended up 4 years of nursing school after the half a year that I had already done. And when I finished nursing school, I thought I was a failure because I only got 65, so I just got the bare minimum. And for years I thought that I did something, like it wasn't that good. But then I realized, wait, you worked full time, you went to school full time, and you had 2 little boys. That's an accomplishment. Backtrack a little here, because while I was married to my first husband, I could not let go of what happened to me in the military. And I was in the process of getting a pension. My pension lawyer had found another girl that had almost a similar story to me. So he said, I'd like to get you 2 talking. Well, when we started talking, I told her all of the steps that I had taken. I'd gotten my release changed. I'd spoken to the Globe and Mail, different people. I'd written a story. My teacher loved it. And she had done various other things too, but no one was really listening. The Globe and Mail said it was too controversial of an issue. This was in 1997 that I went to them. And so in 1998, my friend Ann and I contacted Maclean's, and we ended up, well, she didn't have paperwork, so they led her up to believe that they were going to do something with her, and then as soon as everything came out, they dropped her real quick. But I was on the cover of Maclean's magazine in 1998 with rape in the military beside my head. This is 1998, when nobody wanted to talk about this stuff. So I got put down yet again. Well, I was proud of myself that I was doing this and naive enough to thought that I would stop it. I thought putting my face on that cover would make people think again, and that maybe nobody else would get hurt. Yeah, I was wrong. There was 4 articles that year discussing this. There were calls to do better. Nobody did better. It got swept under the rug. It got swept under the rug until 2014 when another girl came forward, and finally, it was like, okay, well, we can't ignore this anymore, and the Justice Marie Deschamps report came out. That was in 2015. I think it was 2016 or 17, a class action lawsuit was started, and we actually won it. We won $900 million against the Canadian government, and there was 20,000 plus applicants. That's just who applied. So some people might not even have applied, so you could think that it's probably bigger than 20,000. So I don't think I was the problem if there's 20,000 other people there applying. But all through my life, I've done the right thing. but told it was wrong. So when I did that in 1998, I had a 1-800 number and I was trying to find other people. I got inundated with calls when I had those 2 little boys. That was part of the reason I went to nursing school. I wanted to actually learn how to help these people, but I didn't even know how to help myself. So when I got through, I had done this, but then I kind of went underground because I got so much hate and people telling me that I was the worst thing to happen to the military and a black mark on Canadian society and all of this. But then when I was in nursing school, some girl comes up to me and she's like, "Did you know you're in the War Museum?" And I'm like, "No." So like my magazine was in the Decade of Darkness. So I was in there and I actually went and I saw myself. It's not there now, they changed that whole display that they had, but for 16 years I was hanging in the War Museum. And then I went to a dinner in 2017 and one of the archivists at the museum actually gave me that magazine that was hanging in the article in the War Museum with a letter validating it and how long it had been in there. So I got that and I'm gonna put it in a shadow box for my granddaughter. So I got married again and that did not work out well. That was a very quick marriage and I decided to stay single for a while. My kids were growing up. I was kind of stuck in a teenage mentality. I thought it was like Sleeping Beauty. So I say I manifested what I wanted most when I was a kid because I wanted to be Sleeping Beauty. I wanted to fall asleep and wake up when the world was nice. But right. So I was going through life. I didn't realize at that time, I was stuck at 19. So when my kids hit teenage years, I was like, oh yeah, and I was partying with them. But then I got married again. And well, it was cursed, it was a blessing. So the man I married was actually my boyfriend before I left for the military. And I had this dream of him coming and saving me from the West, right? And when he came home after like 20 some odd years, he had come from Calgary. And here he was back in my life, he came from the West and he was gonna come save me. Nah. Well, he did in a way, because of him and his abuse and his 15 charges, I had to run for my life again. So all my life people told me, Dawn, you can't do this on your own. There's no way, you need people. The last 4 years, I've lived on my own. And before that, before I met him, I had been a shut-in for 4 years. So in 2012, I really couldn't nurse anymore. It just got to be too much. And I just isolated myself. I would not leave my house unless I had to because the big bad world did get to me. And I didn't want to be a part of it anymore. I developed agoraphobia. My PTSD was just I could not see anything in a positive way. I watched The Secret or something and I was like, what do I have to be grateful for? Oh my God. Now I realize there's so much more. So my ex-husband, here's my Sleeping Beauty story too. I say that I did not wake up by a kiss from a prince. It was via cell phone to the side of the head by him. And I was like, there's gotta be something better. And I started to think, I want more, I want better. So then I had to look in the mirror and realize the only person that could do it was me. Mm-hmm. And I had to start asking myself hard questions. And I realized that I believed everything everybody said up to this point. I had never believed myself. My feelings were irrelevant, everybody else's were important. And it kept going back to my chief and what he said after everything happened to me. So he said I was nobody. I wrote this. And I'm like, you know what? Feel free to call me that these days because I am no body. I'm not a body. I'm a spirit living in this body, but I'm not my body. I'm not an object. I'm more than that. I'm not my Maclean's cover, so I've come so much more. My trauma doesn't define me or anything. He said I was nothing. I can say that because I am no thing. I am worthy and I have value. But I'm not a thing, I'm not an object, I can't be bought, I'm not owned, I'm a free spirit, I can do what I want. And what I want to do is be me. Finally, after all these years. without all the restrictions of other people. I have a 10-year-old granddaughter, and I want to teach her that no matter what, she can do whatever she wants. Like, I took her roller skating in April, and I ended up breaking my wrist. So I just got my cast off like 2 weeks ago, but it's a good story. So like now I broke my wrist, but hey, at almost 50, I was out there on 4 wheels with my 10-year-old granddaughter. And you know, my chief said I was going nowhere. You know, wasn't gonna amount to anything and all of this. Well, I would love to be nowhere, because it's now and here, the present moment, and that's where we should all be. Because when you start looking to the past, you get depressed, and you get sad, and you dwell on it and everything, and when you look to the future, you're like anxious, and you're like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? But when you're right here in this present moment, there's nothing can bother you. You're in this moment. And so, you know, you can say I'm going nowhere, because that's where I want to be. So, through all of this reframing and like learning that everything that people said to me wasn't quite correct, like I actually had to call my dad and like do some perception checks, because I had this little lost girl inside of me that thought that nobody wanted her and that she wasn't good enough. Because I have my dad still, I called him up and I said, you know, why, like, I know my dad and my mom had some issues when I was young, but then they got back together, and I don't think they think that affected me. But it did. I walked around thinking that nobody loved me. And my dad said, Dawn, you know, your smile saved my life sometimes. And I was like, no, Dad, I didn't. Right? And then so now I'm realizing that that little 2-year-old girl that thought she was unlovable and thought that nobody wanted her and that she wasn't good enough has actually saved people's lives. And like how that is remarkable, but I would never known that if I didn't do the perception check. I would have went through the next 10 years thinking that I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. But when you do that perception check, all of a sudden you realize that, hey, I thought wrong, and that's okay. Now I know better, I can be better and do better. So I have the opportunity to change it and change everything that I've ever thought. So I'm in this healing journey process of trying to reintegrate all my traumas and my personality. Like I've got different ages that I get stuck at, but now I'm aware of them. So now that I'm aware, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm starting to act like that. There's little 2-year-olds coming out. I need the wise woman to come in and consult her. So, you know, I'm watching these videos and I only have a couple minutes left. But I've wanted to be an expert. I've been sitting here like my whole life and thinking it's not gonna come, right? And I just wanted it so bad. And 2 weeks ago, the Madam Justice Louise Arbour report came out, and she was speaking about military reform and what needs to be done. And all of a sudden my phone starts ringing off the wall. And it's reporters. And I'm getting them in Facebook Messenger too. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like overwhelmed. And I'm like, maybe I can only do 1-2 interviews, I don't know what. And then I'm like, Dawn, this is what you've been waiting for. You asked for this, do not turn your back on it. So I ended up doing like 8 interviews in 3 days, and I was like just exhausted. I slept for 2 days after, but I asked for it, I got it, and I did it. And you know what? You can do it too. I came to the Fearless Woman Summit 3 years ago, and I spoke for the first time. And I did Ottawa last month, and a girl came up to me, and she was sitting in the audience, and she had watched me, and she was speaking. And when she came to tell me that, I was like, one woman can change the world. And like, it's incredible how like, we are all one. So if I can change it, you can change it. You can change it. Everyone can. We're all in this together. And I have a quote on my board over there. Margaret Mead said, like, never doubt a small, committed group of humans can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Mm-hmm. So we can't count on the governments and stuff to change things, but you get some grassroots organizations together and watch it go. So I'd like to thank everyone for listening and for the opportunity.